Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Jeremy, people are terrible, and joining me as always is Caleb Miles.
What is up, man?
Happy to have you. We got some cool topics to discuss today. We're going to discuss some weird news, as we always do. We got some less weird, more straightforward news that we're going to kind of touch on really quick. Of course, we're going to go into What the Florida, because we got some fun ones this week. And then for our topics, we're going to talk, Caleb's topic is JUSSIE SMOLLET potentially stages the hate crime. And then I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what the hell is going on with Captain Marvel and why its box office projections have been all over the place in the past month or so. But before we do get to that, which, you know, that maybe could be a movies are terrible topic, but I don't feel like it's being approached that way by a lot of outlets and maybe even Brie Larson herself. So we like to talk about current events and stuff on People Are Terrible, and I figure this kind of falls more in line with that, especially considering neither of us have, seen the movie.
Yeah, I won't see the movie anyway, so.
No, you won't. It's because you don't believe women.
That's what it is, because I hate women. I shouldn't even say that. Somebody's going to cut that out and be like, this is what he said.
Yeah, that's super fucked up. My bad. No, you're not a huge Marvel fan, but we won't bury the lead. We're going to go ahead and jump in with some weird news. For $5,000, you can hunt Bigfoot with Jose Canseco. So Jose Canseco is an ex-baseball player. He was like a home run hitting machine, and his latest project is to go Bigfoot hunting with him. For $5,000, he will let you come along and take you to proven Bigfoot spots and show you a real alien. Caleb, you going, man? You got your ticket?
Heck yeah, I want to go see. I've already been to Roswell, New Mexico, and saw a real alien spaceship, or as I like to call it, foil. So why not do this?
Hold up, man. That sounds like a story. So tell me about going to Roswell.
Yeah, so one time, literally this is how stupid I was. I'd never been to Roswell. Grew up in New Mexico, grew up in Albuquerque, which is still 7 hours away from Roswell. And I was on this big weird X-Files kick, and I'd just been binge watching the seasons, and I was like, fuck it, let's get in our car, me and my brother, and go to Roswell. And we went there, we went to the alien museum and all this, and they're like, this is the alien technology we found. And you look in a glass thing and you're like, motherfucker, that's foil. I know foil when I see it.
So a silver reflective thin material.
Yeah, it was foil. It was literally foil. You're like, it's a weird little town because they really lean heavily into the whole alien thing. Their Walmart has an alien spaceship coming out of the wall, it's breaking through, and their street lights are alien heads. This is what their town survives on.
It's an industry at this point.
It's fucking weird, but it was fun. And but more fun than that is we stayed in this janky motel where it looked like we were probably going to get murdered while we sleep. There was rust on the pipes and running down the walls in the shower, and I was probably going to catch something just by sleeping on the sheets. It was that type of one, which for me was actually kind of probably the highlight of the trip, was the creepy motel.
No doubt. So not convinced. You walked away from Roswell not feeling real good about the chances of aliens landing there.
Yeah, it definitely. I would say if you believe in aliens, this is, if anything, will probably hurt your belief in them than help it.
So yeah, man, I remember. I mean, I don't think you were the only one kind of obsessed with that X-Files show, and I think you and I have talked a little bit before about how Gulf Breeze was one of the UFO capitals of the world. So I've always been fascinated with. I saw tons of documentaries, and what I think is the most compelling and the most likely is that foil belonged to a weather balloon, and they had crash test dummies on board of it, and the humanoid crash test dummies that were pretty much anatomically humanoid but lacking the parts and smooth skin and all of that. So the combination of those two things let people's imaginations run wild. That said, Canseco tweeted out, go on a Bigfoot and alien excursion with Jose Canseco. Contact Morgan Entertainment at, and if you guys want to do this, get your pen real quick. I'll give you a minute. Or actually, you can just rewind back to this part. The phone number that you're going to want to call is 702-374-3735. And apparently when you call this number, they lead you to a message that says, spend the weekend with Jose for $5,000 cash. Only 5 lucky individuals will get a golden ticket. Oompa Loompas ain't got nothing on Bigfoot. Traveling this custom RB to authentic alien sightings and proven Bigfoot habitats. Camp out in the wild, tell stories, and maybe meet a real Bigfoot. You never know what's going to happen with Mr. Canseco. Yeah, yo, please do, man. Yeah, if you got your phone handy.
Read me the number, 702.
374-3735. Yeah, this is a way better idea.
Okay, hold on. 702.
374.
Okay.
3735.
3735. Okay, I'm going to put this on speaker. Tell me if you can hear it.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, cool. Oh my God, I'm so excited about this. This is. Let's see what this is. It's just going to ring forever, isn't it? This is going to be the bit.
Not what we were planning on.
This is not. This is about as anticlimactic as Roswell itself.
Yeah.
0, 2, 3, 7, 4, 3, 7, 3, 5 is not available.
Oh, so what you mean is posting the phone number?
Any messages at this time. Goodbye.
Fuck, I want to see some aliens.
That's ridiculous. I'd imagine that either the 5 slots are filled or they were just so inundated with fucking callers like me and you that they were like, fuck this shit.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, I was so excited to hear this message. Sorry to fuck up your story, but go back to what the message says.
Only serious inquiries, please. At like me and Caleb, for example. I will book you your flights to Vegas and set itineraries. Thank you, Morgan. The response also said the first excursion was almost full. So yeah, when I heard they're bringing 5 people on, $5,000 each, before I even read the golden ticket part, I'm like, yeah, this is some Willy Wonka shit.
For me, if we were able to, like if I had money right now, I would totally pay for $5,000 and bring a camera with us to do it. Because I want to see his real alien, because the tweet said his alien buddies.
Yes, these aren't casual acquaintances. These are his straight up buddies.
Yeah. And come spend the day with me and my alien buddies. And that's pretty fucking awesome. I wish I had some alien buddies. I mean, I do back home, but they're a different type of alien.
Correct. And I'm wondering if that's the semantics there, and Bigfoot is actually just his homeboy with really big feet.
Yeah, it's like, I didn't lie. You know, I got Jose next to me. He's coming with us.
Yeah.
And my boy with the giant feet. It's just me sitting there with my hairy feet out.
I mean, for real though, it's like he doesn't even say just have a Bigfoot sighting or an encounter. He straight up says meet Bigfoot. So apparently Bigfoot's got pretty sophisticated personality and traits. Apparently though,
like literally like Harry and the Hendersons.
Yes, yeah, classic Harry and the Hendersons. Oh, speaking of which, we're going to be talking a little bit about creature designs on this week's episode of Movies Are Terrible. So you guys make sure to stop by and check that out on the Movies Are Terrible YouTube channel on Wednesday. We got some cool, like just from Harry and the Hendersons all the way back to like Jack Pierce and everything in between. We're going to talk about some of the best creature designs in movies. And as a matter of fact, Bigfoot from Harry and the Hendersons did not pop up on my list. Didn't even think about it.
Didn't even think about it. But speaking of like terrifying designs, your next story is pretty amazing.
Let's see here.
The massive, terrifying God Emperor Trump presides over parade in Italy.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is pretty... the story itself isn't near as awesome as the float.
This comes to us via HuffPost. So, a massive likeness of President Donald Trump mashed up with God Emperor character of the Warhammer 40K video games presided over a parade in Italy over the weekend. The float at the Viaggio Carnival featured a giant Twitter sword. Oh yeah, I guess it does have Twitter birds on it. It featured a giant Twitter sword and clawed hand and was animated to turn and shift, and it was moved through procession. Fabrizio Galli, who created the float, said in an interview, the sword contains a phrase that means "Here's your fucking tariffs," according to Heavy.com.
Classic.
And then here's his quote. quote, "It's a joke. But in fact, he's trying to destroy the nations with the economy instead of nuclear missiles." He was quoted as saying, This is one of the strongest actions, let's say, that powerful people like Trump can use." So pretty much, yeah, it was a political statement. I don't know what the parade itself is, but I kind of love this thing. Like it's kind of amazing.
It is so big and fucking it's a really cool design. At first I was like, man, that looks like something from a Blizzard game. I thought maybe World of Warcraft, but it's Warhammer, which is like really popular among a lot of people that go to comic shops a lot. You ever played Warhammer before?
No, but I've been around the people who don't shower and stink up the whole comic shop who play Warhammer before.
Yeah, I'm not familiar, but it does, like, I went and looked at pictures of the character afterwards. I'm like, okay, oh yeah, okay, I see it. The guy went on to write, Donald wants to go back to the moon, travel to Mars, and create the first space army. Ultramarines? Mega Marines? The time of intellectuals, philosophers, and of old and worn culture is over. We have entered the era of fantasy, video games, and virtual life. So obviously he's not a big fan of what's going on over here in America. I mean, do you think this is emblematic of the way that outsiders see America, or do you think that we have I mean, are there certain countries that are like allies that like having Donald Trump as president?
I noticed, like, I'm pretty sure the people of Venezuela like Trump right now. You know what I mean? So they're pretty happy about him.
Yeah.
I've heard, rumor is, I don't know if this is true, that, like citizens in North Korea, the ones who are, not completely indoctrinated are happy with him. It just depends. I think sometimes we get a little too caught up with, there's trying to think of a way to word this, because the world is a bigger place. We do need to be concerned. But just because another country hates you doesn't mean necessarily that you're the bad guy, or that they're right. You could be right and they could be wrong. So I think sometimes we place a little importance on that. We've had presidents that were loved in the rest of the world while here in America, our economy wasn't doing well or stuff like that. So I think people get a little caught up on this. But when he talks about Trump, like, I'm not a big Trump guy, but when he talks about Trump, kind of makes me like him. Like, he's an emperor. He's creating a space army. I'm like, you're kind of selling me on this guy unintentionally.
But then he goes on to say that it's entered the era of fantasy video games and virtual life. So I don't think he necessarily thinks that it's going to happen. I think that imperialism is the biggest problem about America, is that we, this whole idea of being the world police, fucking Team America, and that's bothered people for a really long time. I think people see us as kind of like the empire,
It's one of those, it's a catch-22. So we're kind of in this position where we go into some place, we're the empire. We refuse to stay out of some place. How dare you, America, let these people suffer? Or how dare you do this if you didn't? So we're kind of in this weird situation, which, being at the top, makes sense, where if we go in and try to be the world's police, we're the bad guy. If we don't go in and be the world's police, we're kind of still the bad guy. It just, no matter what we do, we're not going to be really well loved. And, it's just kind of the situation that we're in.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of that over the years, and I think the big thing, and we come back to it a lot, is that there's no, like, universal consensus that it's possible to be liked and disliked depending on which people you're specifically talking about. I do feel like our international reputation was in a pretty good place when Obama was in office, and that's why I always like the idea of voting progressive, is because it's good optics. I feel like, if nothing else, it's good optics.
Yeah, I agree. Optically, I do think Obama was good for the country. I think, as someone who has a lot of problems with some of the stuff he did, and even actually with his foreign policy, it's funny because it's all marketing. He did like more drone strikes than anyone.
Yes.
Did more national emergencies than anyone. I mean, we're freaking out. We'll get to this eventually, but we're freaking out about Trump's third national emergency when Obama had 13 national emergencies. But I always tell people, no matter what you say, whether you fall on him or you loved Obama or hated him or somewhere in between like me, he is a brilliant marketer, and he's one of the best speakers we've ever had in office.
Absolutely.
And that went a long way around the world. if you can, it's like social media, like unfortunately presidents are too. If you can get the right optics, it doesn't really matter what the fuck you're doing. Is people will cheer you on as long as you know how to present it. And
you sell it in a way that sounds appealing to people. Yeah. It's just putting your own, like, a spin that works with more people. Dude, I apologize. I for you guys at home that have been watching me kind of like freak out over here. Yesterday I was cooking, right? That's pretty gross. People aren't gonna want to see that. Yesterday I was cooking and I had a bread knife that I was really thinly slicing up bell peppers with. Okay. And I straight up went through my thumb all the way to the nail with this serrated edge blade. And just now I was like adjusting my microphone and I bumped it and I've got blood and viscera running down my arm right now. So I'm gonna step out for a second. I'll be right back, dude. I gotta get something.
We're gonna pause this for a second.
Yeah. Without Amazon HQ2, what's happening to housing in Queens? All right, guys. First of all, I'm not very, very qualified to be talking about politics. There are so many facets to it, so much that I don't understand. I have a general grasp on it, and this is a pretty complicated issue. And as we alluded to just now, there is no like overwhelming consensus on one side or the other. And in fact, I think me and Caleb have slightly different ideas on it. So set this up for us, man. Just kind of give us a little bit of pretext, and then let me know what your thoughts are.
So essentially, what happened is Amazon has been trying to figure out where they're going to put. I know Denver, where I'm at, was actually on the target for a while. So who knows? We could be getting it now. So their HQ, which would create, I believe, something like 40,000 jobs, or maybe it was 20,000, but it was a decent amount of jobs, and they're all mid to higher end jobs that was going to create. And they chose New York. And
because real quick, the campus in Seattle was so overcrowded and they needed to expand, so they needed a second headquarters. So they proposed a lottery to different cities across the country, trying to decide where they were going to put their second headquarters.
Yeah, and I believe New York kind of won the bid. They said that I think they were going to give them, like, off the top of my head, like a $3 billion tax cut in order to earn their business there, which is very typical. You know, people put in bids are like, hey, you know, we're going to give you this much taxes. And the reason they do that, they give them a break because they know those jobs will still give them a net surplus of taxes for the city. So New York was all about it. The overwhelming of New York citizens were actually for it too. The majority of people, polling showed, poll after poll,
correct,
New Yorkers did want it to be there. In fact, most Democrats within New York wanted it to be there. There was a small local minority, kind of headed the charge with Ocasio-Cortez, that was really against it. They were worried about gentrification. She was worried about, quote unquote, like saving New York $3 billion, which is, for my opinion, we'll get into, it's not really how it works. But so they went there, they won the bid, and then because of all the backlash, they said, nah, screw you, New York, we're going to go somewhere else. And I believe it was one of the chairmans or the CEO of someone issued a statement, like, pretty much that said, hey, we wanted to be here, but we faced a lot of political opposition. You guys don't want to work with us. We'll take our business elsewhere.
Was it Bezos or somebody else that worked up at
it was someone else. I don't think it was Bezos.
Okay.
And then Andrew Cuomo, the governor, came out and was like, he was pissed, and I believe he's a Democrat as well, was like, hey, you kind of screwed this. You screwed the people of this city. They wanted it. We wanted it. And then the mayor of New York also came out, I believe also a Democrat, and was like, hey, you screwed the city. You screwed up. We wanted it. They wanted it. My opinion, well, actually, I don't want to get too long-winded. What's your opinion on it?
It's a very complicated issue. And as you said, a lot of New Yorkers in particular in Long Island City, or is that what it was? Long Island City? Yeah, I think so. And then also Queens, they were very much in support of this because bringing more jobs to any community is a very desirable thing. And as Caleb said, there was like 25,000 jobs that were going to be guaranteed for this move. Not only did Amazon make a headquarters in New York, but they also made one in Virginia, which in itself, the fact that they decided to split it into two different locations didn't exactly earn the favor of everyone, because the original idea was that one community was going to get it. Well, an area like Virginia that may need a little bit more economic stimulation than maybe a place like New York City, where there is so much industry already, I can see how the general populace, the general public would say, our city needs it more. We need it even more, you know? So obviously there's going to be that pushback of like, well, we should have had it. And, you know, you did say that they were offering tons of money in tax incentives for Amazon to come there. Just a rhetorical question, but do you know how much Amazon paid for taxes this year?
I actually don't.
$0.
Through a loophole?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that fundamentally my feelings about it, gentrification is one element of it. I think that Amazon has a lot of shady business practices. I think that they're known for being pretty unethical, underpaying their people. They're against unionization, which labor unions, and especially up in the Northeast, they really protect people from, you know, getting treated like complete shit. There was a kickback. Like, I think about 20 to 25% of people in the area were actually opposed to Amazon, where the overwhelming majority were very much in support of it. So I feel it's a little bit petty that they would let the vocal minority dictate whether or not, especially if they wanted to have a good relationship with the people of New York. It's like they should have come to the table. They should have been more willing to address the concerns that people had. They should have been willing to negotiate, because every good deal struck ever was through the process of negotiation, not just here's our terms, now fucking deal with it. And if anybody says shit about it, we're pulling the plug on it and we're going somewhere else. You made me ask a question real quick, and then we'll get back to what you were thinking. But did they say that they were going to add another campus instead of New York, or are they just distributing all of those people into other Amazon headquarters?
I don't think they've made a decision yet. I'm assuming that it'll go to one of the other cities that wanted the bid. You know, I'm assuming that they'll go back to the drawing table, because they haven't made an official statement yet. My issue with it is, even if Amazon, let's say, you know, so you said, and I have no reason to disbelieve you, Amazon paid $0 in taxes. I guarantee you their CEO paid taxes, all their higher ups paid taxes, all of their employees pay taxes. So that's still a huge surplus of tax revenue going into wherever that place is going to be, even if they were to pay $0. So my problem with it was mainly like Ocasio-Cortez and that small, I always call them the social media wing of the Democratic Party. That was so proud. They went on Twitter and they're like, we won. And my thing was like, she's like, we saved New York $3 billion. I'm like, no, you did not. I saw the best tweet that summarized it. It says, someone's working at a pizza restaurant, comes in and goes, hey, I'm going to order 20 pizzas. I have this coupon for $10 off. The person goes, no, we're not accepting your coupon. They go, okay, I guess I'll go somewhere else that does. And then the person turns to the boss and goes, hey, I saved us $10. No, you didn't. You lost us a ton of money because we were giving a discount to earn their business. You know,
sure.
Yes.
Sure.
And so she was like, we can spend that $3 billion in somewhere better, giving back to social problems. I'm like, there is no $3 billion. They're not giving Amazon $3 billion. That's not how this works. They're giving them a tax cut.
Correct.
Of $3 billion. So you still would get, I think it was something like 20 to 26 billion surplus dollars, especially for someone on her end of the aisle who is all about redistribution of wealth, who is all about social programs, who is all about all of this big government providing stuff. They have to do that through taxes. So giving a surplus of billions of dollars in taxes to your state, where you already want to up social programs, I'm like, I know she's super anti-big business, but where does she think these social programs are going to come from? It doesn't make any sense. They have to come from somewhere. So it's cool if she's like, fuck them, but let's cut social programs, or let's leave them at the current level. But I'm like, logically, you have to kind of balance this out. This money doesn't just come because the government gives you money. The government spending, as we all know, comes from us by paying our taxes. That's how this whole system works. I found it very ideologically driven, which is most of politics, but I found it very ill-informed on her behalf. Now, you want to make the argument that yes, it would raise cost of living. Okay, that's an argument to have. But
well, okay,
to
real quick, hold on. To elaborate on that, because that's something I was going to kind of curtail back to, is because Queens right now is in a pretty bad financial situation. Of all of the bureaus in New York, they are not doing as well. There's not a lot of development going on. It's just kind of been stagnant. So this really would be a way to help jumpstart the economy in one hand. However, if they brought in young professionals from other places other than New York, then it's not really helping that. Well, I mean, if they're living there, but what you said is correct, is if there's this huge influx of people, then all of a sudden the demand for housing goes up, then all of a sudden the monthly rent goes up, then all of a sudden, and this might just be rhetoric. It's really hard to know for sure, but in theory, this is how gentrification does happen in a lot of different places. I mean, do you think that there is a argument to be made about the changing in prices of housing?
I live in an extremely gentrified area. Right now in Denver. Apparently, I live in an area that is like hipster haven right now.
Yeah.
That used to apparently be a hood. It blows my mind that I could even consider this a hood. Like, it's a nice neighborhood. So I, as someone who grew up dirt poor and in the hood, I don't know. Maybe this is me speaking because I have my own hangups about that. I'm fine with cleaning up neighborhoods if I have to pay more. It's one of those things. I would rather, cut down on a lot of my bills and try to pay more and then be living in a place that's super crime ridden and stuff like that. So yes, there is a bad side to gentrification, but plummeting crime rates is a positive side of them.
And again, that's what another thing that makes this a little bit more ambiguous and a little bit less cut and dry is because there are going to be like the people who are participating in crimes, the people who are, of that certain age or certain demographic that are going to be increasing crime in areas like that. But then there's like the neighbors, the people that have been in the community for 60 years, the people who that's all they've ever known. And I don't know who the majority is, and you're right, because I actually lived in a very gentrified area of downtown Pensacola, because what happens in my experience, it's less about big giant businesses coming into town, but it's more about natural catastrophes, because what happened in Pensacola is Hurricane Ivan came through and just completely demolished downtown Pensacola. So what they did is developers came in afterwards and bought up huge blocks, chunks and chunks of real estate all over town, renovated these houses, built them up slightly nicer than they were before, and rented them out to hipsters. So I don't know where all of those people from the neighborhood ended up going, but if they ended up going to New Orleans, that sucks, because when Hurricane Katrina happened, exact same fucking thing. And that's why New Orleans is so much less crime now. However, it is also much, much, much whiter. And I think a lot of those people ended up going to Texas. I don't know exactly. And we don't want to forget about those people. It's hard to keep track. Like, eventually, where are they going to go? Especially if people are against government housing and things like that. If we push them out of their neighborhoods, then where do they go,
Yeah, I mean, I relate to being priced out. It sucks. Like, it really, really does. I get it. Of an area, and that's happening in all major cities. Pretty much. When you get to downtown, you're getting priced out. So I definitely do relate to that. I mean, a 3-bedroom house in my neighborhood is like $650K.
Shit!
Small little like what's it called? I rent a basement. You know what I mean? Like,
that's wild.
Neighborhood. And it's just one of those things where I get it. I really do. I understand where it comes from, but ultimately, if your goal is government expansion, if your goal is more social programs, if your goal is all of those things that social media wing's goal is about equality of outcome, then the only way to do that is through government money. The only way to get government money is increase in business. So you're in this weird catch-22 where they're like, we need to increase government. Government's an expenditure. That's what people don't realize. Any government is a negative. It's a bill. That's what a government is. Government is a bill that we pay. And government is not something that really creates wealth. What creates wealth is private sector, then pays the bill of the government. So by stamping out That's like literally going, hey, man, I have more bills. So I think the answer is to quit my job and go to the bank and loan more money, get more money. Like, that's not the answer. It doesn't make any sense. And that's essentially what they're proposing. So I just think it's a bizarre, ill-informed economic stance to be anti-big business and also, well, anti-business, not even big business, anti-business, while also at the same time being pro huge social programs, because the money has to come from somewhere.
All right, guys, I'm going to let you get the last word on this. Leave us your thoughts down in the comment section. As you've heard from both of us, there are a lot of things to take into consideration, a lot more than just what side of the aisle that you sit on. So, guys, take a minute to think about it, and let's talk about it down in the comment section. I would actually really love to hear your input on it. But that's not the only big story that I'm not qualified to talk about that we're going to tackle on today's show. Let's talk a little bit about Trump declaring a national emergency and provoking a constitutional clash. As you just now alluded to a moment ago, there are many executive or states of emergency that have been enacted since 1977. In fact, I think there was about 50 of them at one point, like 30 something of them are still in effect right now. In 1976, there was a bill signed to basically do away with all of the state of emergencies that had been enacted previous to that date through revisions. Oh, shit. Sorry.
National emergency.
There had been revisions made to this process, basically to try to get a little bit more control on the unlimited power that presidents could have in this situation. So it was revised. As Caleb said, President Obama, I think, had 12. George Bush had like 13. Donald Trump's sitting at 3 right now. He is a couple years into his term. Yet, fascinatingly, this is really the first time that I ever recall hearing about it. So everybody, the rhetoric has very much been, he's setting a precedent, he's setting a precedent, he's setting a precedent. So when I started to do research, I was thinking, wow, he's really not setting this precedent. It started in 1977 with Carter. And since then, every president has had the ability and actually has used it. So what general thoughts? What do you think about this whole situation?
So this is one of those things that really bothers me speaking on media, because now it's a big deal, which I actually fall on that side. I'm very against this. Very against this. But let's not act like, a lot of times you'll find these things, I'll be like, oh my God, this president's doing it. And like literally 80% of the time, it was a Democratic president from years past that started it, you know? But I'm always against the expanse of the executive branch. You know, it's not meant to be run this way. You're not supposed to use executive orders. I was very critical of Bush and Obama for both abusing their executive orders and their national emergency. This to me, I agree. He didn't set the precedents, but this is definitely expanding it again. You know, like
Correct.
He definitely expanding it more. And Pelosi came out and said, you know, oh, hey, if you do this, then we'll just declare a national emergency for gun control. And then Rep. Ilhan Omar, I forgot what she said, but something, you know, like, oh, if you guys do this, that's fine. We'll just use that for some left-leaning thing. I'm like, no, everybody pump the brakes. How about we just don't do this? Because this is not the way the system was designed to work.
Well, and for those of you guys keeping track at home, the reason why this decision was made is because he couldn't come to an agreement with Congress over the building of the wall or the border barrier or whatever. And this has been an ongoing thing. Obviously, there was the government shutdown a couple weeks ago, at which point he said, if I don't get what I want, I'm basically going to sign a state of emergency. State of emergencies are typically reserved for wars, civil unrest, and there's one other thing. And I guess if you stretch your thinking that maybe this could fall into the civil unrest category, because it certainly doesn't fall into either of the other two, which unfortunately I don't have in front of me right now. But it just, okay, so what made this so unique to all of those other cases is the decision to do this has never been in direct conflict with the decisions of Congress. So they said he requested funding, they said no, so he's declaring a state of emergency to obtain this money from different from like the Department of Defense and different organizations, which that's what makes it so much different, is not that he's done the state of emergency, but that it was due to financing something that the rest of the government didn't necessarily agree with.
Yeah, I feel like that's my big problem with it. First of all, I don't think he can do what he's proposing, because if I'm correct, he wants to do it on there like, we need it for, we're going to use the funding. We're going to do the emergency funding, which would be, you're supposed to use that to like literally upgrade tanks. You know what I mean? Like
yes.
Maintenance and stuff. This is more new creation, but I mean, I guess he could use it as, well, there's already a wall. We're just filling in the chunks in between. Maybe that's the loophole we're looking at. But what really bothers me is the right was very, very, very critical of Obama using executive orders to do stuff, as I believe they should have been. But now I see a lot of this. Granted, I am seeing a lot of people on the right speak out against this, like,
as have I.
Quite a few,
Mm-hmm.
But I am also seeing the Trumpsters, who are, in my opinion, not as right wing as they pretend to be. They're more authoritarian, bigger. They're what I call European right. Like European right is totally different than American right. European right still falls under the authoritarianism, totalitarianism. Like they always say, Hitler was right wing. Yes, he was. He was European right wing, not American right wing. And American right wing is small government. And I feel like the Trumpsters, who would have, if Pelosi were to come out, Pelosi came out and said, well, then fine, we'll just use a national emergency to take away your guns. Those same people will be like, well, no, you can't do that. And they are correct. But we need to get out of this team mentality. It blows my mind. Anyone who's truly conservative should be against this 100%.
It gets to be that same tit for tat thing as you mentioned before. If they do this now, there's going to be retribution for it. And once that initial retribution happens, it's just going to be back and forth, trying to one up the other person. The same that Republicans have been outed for their controversies. Democrats have been outed for their controversies. It's almost always from the opposing side. And it's kind of like the idea of one of theirs for one of ours. And that's really problematic. We don't want our government squabbling like that. We want to believe that this system has things in place. Like Congress and the executive branch are supposed to work together. And it seems like Trump has decided that Congress is the enemy, because the president is supposed to enforce the rules that are set by Congress.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like, the executive branch is not meant to be as big as it is now. It never was meant to be as big as it is now, but we keep expanding it. Bush, in my opinion, did a major overreach of the executive branch, and he wasn't the first, but I mean, just like in my memory because of our age group, but like Bush was a huge overreach of the executive branch. I think Obama then expanded that even more, and I feel like Trump's going to continue to do the same, and I'm pretty sure the next Democratic president will go ahead and expand the executive branch as well, which is not the way this is designed to work.
Yeah, I don't have the figures in front of me, which I should, but if I'm not mistaken, the executive branch is sitting around like 450, 500 members or something like that, which is freaking huge. And it's just, again, this isn't a simple issue, but it's worth being informed on it, because I don't know where we go from here. If people are trying to sue Trump's ass off right now, there are so many different organizations and people that are trying to prevent this from happening. And you mentioned before, do you think that this is actually going to go through, or is it one of these things that is going to go away?
Oh no chance in hell. This is gonna be shut down, as it should be. This is going to not work out, and it shouldn't. This definitely shouldn't be, shouldn't go through. And I'm pretty confident, just like the quote unquote, it was never called this, but the quote unquote Muslim ban was shut down as it rightfully should have been.
Right.
This will be too.
So I don't know if you're familiar with the YouTube star Blippi, because neither of us are young children. Neither of us have young children, but apparently Blippi is a huge YouTube phenomenon. He gets millions of views per per video. He kind of reminds me of like the Blues Clues guy or any children's host that would appeal to like toddlers, to young children. Well, recently it was revealed that Blippi used to be known by something else. He had another name, something Grossman, as a matter of fact, I think is what is. So not any like real trying to hide what it was that he did before, but back in the mid 2000s, he was more of a gross out entertainer. He was doing more like the shock humor, and it was really big. I mean, starting with like CKY and Jackass, like Bam Margera, Johnny Knoxville, and all those kind of guys. Anyways, he did a Harlem Shake video in addition to tons and tons of other really boundary pushing skits. But in his version of Harlem Shake, he's sitting in the bathroom on the toilet, and his buddy's sitting in there with him. And then when the music kicks in, it's him standing on top of the toilet, completely naked. His buddy's on the toilet, ass up, and the dude on the toilet is just shitting all over his buddy's butt. And it just now like came out that this children's star has this really sketchy history of doing this stuff. I tried, man. I dug deep trying to find the video itself, but I could not find it. I wanted to play it for you guys on it. No, I was going to watch it so I could say whether or not it was disgusting or not. But do you remember those Harlem Shake memes, videos?
Yeah, I didn't get it at the time. I was like, what the hell? And this sounds like another what the hell thing that makes me just feel like an old man.
Did you see Two Girls in One Cup?
Oh, of course I did. That was like a whole, that was Two Girls, One Cut and Rotten.com were like the whole thing of our generation.
Yeah, Rotten.com. I forget. And then there was Steak and Cheese was another one that was pretty disgusting. And all of these things that were mentioned are just like shock value. Like the Two Girls in One Cup reactions were about as big as the video itself because friends would show it to their friends without giving them any context as to what it is. I'm sure you guys are at least familiar with the Two Girls in One Cup. If not, look it up. And then there was also Lemon Party that was like 3 elderly men having sex with each other. So it's just like there was a lot of it going on. Oh yeah, if life gives you lemons, you have a lemon party. But yeah, so there was a lot of this stuff going around at the time. He has since kind of launched a campaign and has an attorney that's trying to get all this stuff pulled off of the internet, you know, for copyright, which he's done pretty well. Like if you Google it, it's not popping up anywhere. So that said, obviously you can't completely get rid of something like this on the internet, but I guess the conversation here is like, do you think that he should suffer any sort of penalization, ramifications for this?
No, I mean, it sounds like he made a stupid video trying to be shock jock content.
Fucking edgelord.
Yeah, he was just trying to make a name, and now he found success in something else. Now, it would be different if he, like, uploaded this now onto that children's channel. Then I'd be like, okay, yeah, this is, you know, but no, I mean, everyone has a past, and they've all done stuff different, especially people who've tried to make it online. They've all said stuff online. I think we need to let people grow and evolve.
If you were a parent and you found out about this, would you still let your kids watch the current content that he makes?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think that we talk about separating the art from the entertainer, and I think this is an example of like he's identifying himself as these personas. He's a performer, and each of these characters were different characters, and neither of them are probably true to who he is as a person. So I think people should be able to reinvent themselves, and kind of back to the Jackass thing, like Johnny Knoxville voices children's animation and shit now, and nobody has problems with that.
He's my favorite version of Leonardo in Ninja Turtles. So
is he?
You know? Huh?
What, from the movies?
Yeah, he's in the 2014. He's
No
Leo.
shit. I did not know that.
A very good, darker, more serious Leo. No, and that's my thing. Is to me that would be like, let's say you find out that this new Disney movie comes out, and then you find out, well, before he directed this director directed a porno. Should you then boycott the new movie? Well, the new movie's not a porno, so why would you boycott it?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's under that sort of thing for me.
Yeah, that's a good example, or a good analysis. How many views would it take for you to let your buddy shit on your naked butt? Or is there any amount of views that would let you do that?
I was like, yeah, I don't think there's any amount of views.
What about to shit on your buddy's butt?
Oh, I'd do that for free.
Yeah, I don't think, like, you can't, I mean, like, if I knew I would get 0 views for it, I'd be more likely to do it than if I got 1,000,000 views for it, because then you're going to be known as that guy.
Yeah, I don't think that's something that I want. Like, like, oh, Caleb and Jeremy? Yeah, those are 2 dudes that shit on each other. That's not really what I want our branding to be.
I'm like, no, we didn't shit on each other. I shit on him.
Yeah, but just on my butt. It doesn't count.
I mean, come on, dude. We've all had shit on our butts before.
It's very true. I don't know if I've ever had someone else's shit on my butt, but hey.
I mean, I've used public restrooms.
True. I mean, we've had some public restroom stories already on the show, so we probably both have had someone else's shit on our butt at some point in time.
Shit on the butt. You guys let us know what you think about this conversation. No, don't let us know what you think about the conversation. Let us know what you think about the story, and we're going to go ahead and move on to What the Florida? These are always my favorite parts, and the only part usually on the show that I am qualified to talk about. So let's kick this off with the Florida man received $980,000 tax refund after reporting $18,500 in wages.
And so how did this happen? I have no idea how he got such a big tax return. I'm very, very confused about this.
Yeah, dude, when you're making less than $20,000 a year, it seems like it would be pretty difficult to withhold $1 million in federal income tax, and that's what he reported, that he had withheld $1 million off of his $20,000. So he got this $980,000 check. And obviously people were starting to investigate him after he had deposited into 2 different accounts. So he immediately got a cashier's check and went and put it into some other bank account, which, dude, once I get the $1 million, I'm fucking dipping, man. I'm going to South America. Yeah. Only in Florida would you fucking think you could stay in Florida after some shit like this. I mean, it's kind of a cool crime on one hand. This man has never had anywhere near $980,000 in his life, and obviously.
No, you put that shit in like an offshore account, and then you move to like Thailand.
Yes, live like a king over there with John McAfee.
Yeah, like you just literally ride that shit out. You don't fucking just be like, and also too, if you have 980,000, is Florida the place you really are like, this is just heaven here. I'm gonna stay right here.
You know how much cocaine and prostitutes you can get with $980,000? Quite a few.
It's unreal to me. It's a pretty amazing story. On one hand, it's like, I do respect the guy's hustle. It's a pretty cool scheme. On the other, it's like it ended at him getting money. Like you think his plan would have been something long term. Like, okay, if I get this, I'm out. But no, he was like, no, I'm just chilling.
What a dumbass. I don't know. Yeah, like you said, I said, you just take the money and run. Like, he was already facing serious trouble just for doing it in the first place, and now you don't even get to spend the money, man. I don't know. I would just go ham sandwich for as long as I could before I got caught, if that's what I planned on doing. But I guess
you would assume like he would have a better plan. The Florida man claiming people were eating his brains leads police on insane golf course chase. This is the type of Florida man shit I love. So this comes to us from golfdigest.com. It's written by Coleman Bentley, and this was February 15th. So, the golf course chase is a genre classic. From Hollywood to real life, its lore lives in the hearts and minds of golfers everywhere. Growing up in stature with every new report of Florida, it's almost always Florida. Rarely do we get to occasionally witness said pursuit. Left to fill in the spunker jumps. Oh, sorry, totally phone froze. So essentially, this guy the footage picks up the chase with 29-year-old Jesse Webb behind the wheel of a stolen community watch vehicle, which he commandeered from a neighborhood supervisor, responding to reports that Webb was running around shouting that, quote, the people were eating his brains out. After hopping behind the wheel, Webb swerves across several backyards before veering onto the grounds of Orange Blossoms Hills Golf and Country Club. 2 cruisers give chase as Webb weaves in and out of carts and players dumbfounded to get out of the way. Did you see the picture of this guy? His face?
Oh, hell yeah. And his mohawk?
Oh, dude, that's fucking awesome.
Jesse Webb.
Like I'm kind of and he has like this horrible bruise on his face, which I'm assuming from the pursuit.
Plowing
That
into a
mohawk.
house at the end of the
Oh, I
chase.
didn't
So, did you watch the video?
no, I didn't watch the video.
It's 5 minutes long. Maybe I'll edit together a highlight reel because the whole thing's not all that exciting, but there's definitely some good parts in it. So the dude stole like a security vehicle, like whoever was like guarding the golf course or some shit. He jumps into their thing, takes off. He's getting chased by unmarked cars all in and out of the golf course onto like local actual roads through residential neighborhoods. And these cops are just fucking smashing after him in high speed pursuit. And it literally looks like Crazy Taxi or like fucking Grand Theft Auto, where people are like jumping out of the way of this fucking moving vehicle. It's pretty great, man. It's pretty great. And of course, there were people trying to eat his brains. I mean, that's what makes this Florida man. But I grew up on golf courses, so this is something that I definitely I've never been chased on a golf course, but I have fucking tore some fairways up in a car. Straight up.
I've never even, so I lied. I've only been on a golf course once. It was because I was dating this girl and her dad was super into golf and he hated me. So that was our apparently trying to bond thing. But I've never been on a golf course besides that.
And I've never played golf. Every time I've been on a golf course was for some sort of vandalism, breaking the law in some way. Because, as a kid, my parents were, I don't know, middle class, but probably lower middle class. So we lived in a decent neighborhood that was right beside a big, nice neighborhood that had the golf courses and the big $1 million houses and shit in it. So me and my buddies, white trash at heart. Like I always identify myself as just being white trash. But
I think everyone in Florida is a little white trash.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And so we would wait until people teed off and we would run out of the woods and we would grab their ball and just fucking take off. So that was like a big pastime of ours as kids, which was stupid, not all that cool. But I remember getting a little bit older and just, I don't know, probably being high or some shit. I don't remember exactly what the actual motivation was. But I remember driving through Hidden Creek neighborhood and just deciding I'm going straight over hole number 8. So we're like going all over the green, all over these rolling hills and fucking tore the grass up, dude. So I know that this had to be thousands and thousands of dollars worth of property damage.
Yeah, I'm sure they have insurance, but probably the state's going to pay a little bit of that too.
And the fucking cops, yeah, dude, like they contributed to that.
They were just like, fuck it, I've always wanted to do this.
Yes.
I'm chasing this deer.
Hell yeah. And dude, I mean, think about how fun that is. Like it's not just like a flat raceway, like you're going, and then there's sand traps and shit. Like it's treacherous, dude. Lakes and people and golf carts. It's like some Caddyshack shit, man.
It really is. That's what it's Caddyshack. Like this is not even like this is like a comedy chase scene in a movie.
There was a national headline about a Pensacola man the other day that had driven straight through a chain link fence to the Pensacola International Airport and straight up onto the runway and ended up getting arrested. Didn't hurt anybody, didn't hurt himself, but ended up going to jail for it. Thinking about it, if you could drive over any terrain, over any geographical location through a city, where would you want to take a vehicle off-roading?
Well, okay, my first choice is a cheat one. I just want to go off-roading on the moon, like
Fuck
Friday
yeah.
on the episode.
Yes.
That's my cheat. Because, but that's not realistic. So then after that, I don't know, man. There's got to be somewhere fun. It has to be like in a city. Like I want to be going downstairs and stuff, like somewhere like San Francisco with a bunch of hills.
Yeah, or like Twisted Metal driving through Paris, France, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool. In my mind, I think about White Sands, New Mexico, but I've never actually been there before. Have you been?
I have been. It's sandy.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. It's but literally it's like super soft sand. You can just like get on a board and slide down it. I've been when I was a kid though. I vaguely remember it.
Do you remember if Boyz II Men was standing on top of one of the sand dunes singing "I'm Down on Bended Knee"?
They are always there. That's just, even when they're not there, the wind blows and you just hear Boyz II Men.
That's amazing, man. That would be great, dude. Just like the echoing reverb of their voice from 1993 coming through.
They're just like stuck there forever, their voices.
Was it on Bended Knee? Is that the one that it was?
I don't know. I think all Boys to Men songs are somewhere with them with their shirts open and them on top of sand and then throwing back their shirts.
I do, yeah, because I think okay, it was Water Runs Dry. Let's not wait till the water. But I think Jodeci did it too with the song Cry for You.
That's like such an R&B like trope. In fact, they even made fun of it on American Dad, where Roger and Steve Smith are on sand and their like shirts are open. They both have abs and they're like singing. Like,
Steve can sing, can he?
Oh man, he really can. Like really legitimately can sing. He's the real king of pop.
Yeah, I love that show, man. I miss new episodes of that show.
Mm-hmm.
You're like me, man. We watch a lot of adult, I guess, animation.
Yeah, and not porn. I mean, I do watch porn, but not animated porn.
What? Don't watch
anime
anime
not
porn?
Not into the tentacle thing. No, not really my thing.
I guess that's cool. We'll go ahead and move on. Florida man claiming people eating... Oh, yeah, we'll do the same story again. How about we move on to the next one? Florida man arrested after recording himself having sex with his dog. Caleb, curveball. Did you hear about this one?
No, I didn't even know this one was coming up. Whoa, what is going on? This sounds like some Kevin Gates shit.
Oh, so I just found it before we went live, and I was like, there's no fucking way I can't not do this. And then I didn't want to tell you about it so that I could get your, surprised reaction out of it.
Reaction?
Yeah. So, Florida man arrested after recording himself having sex with his dog. Deputies say video shows dog trying to run away. You think? Oh, so Christian Stewart Oscar Nichols. The man's got too many fucking names, for one thing. Christian Stewart Oscar Nichols is facing aggravated animal cruelty charge. This is from Oldsmar, Florida. A Florida man was arrested Monday after deputies said he recorded himself having sex with his dog. 21 arrested on charge of aggravated animal cruelty after Pinellas County detectives obtained videos of the man having sex with a Siberian husky. An investigation into Nichols began last month when he was reported to the county's Animal Services Organization after a tipster claimed that video and photos of Nichols having sex with the dog were on the internet. What makes this story just the best is that he was dressed like a dog when he did it.
So he was like a furry or what?
Yeah, sure. I don't know. I can't understand his motives. I searched for this video longer than I searched for the Harlem Shake video, and I couldn't turn up anything, unfortunately.
My thing is, like, I've been horny as fuck. I've never been so horny that I'm like, I kind of want to fuck a dog. Like, that's never a level of horniness that I think I will ever reach.
Fuck. No. I mean...
did they specify if it was a girl dog or a boy dog?
No, that's a good question. I mean,
not that either one's better. You know?
No, I was gonna say. I think the fact that it's a dog is the part that throws people. Yeah, and did he? Well, the questions are just never ending. Let's just say it that way. Dude's got a fucked up neck beard. You guys got to see this picture of it. It's like he is clean shaven, except for like it's the opposite of a chin strap.
It's like a bib.
That's exactly what it looks like. It's a beerb.
A beerb.
A fucking beerb.
That's so weird. I'm gonna search Florida man dog. I'm gonna try to find a picture of this.
I don't understand motive. I mean, the fact that he uploaded it to the internet, that to me, it's either like a fetish thing that there's an actual like group of people that are like, oh yeah, fucking dogs.
Holy shit! This guy's face.
You like that neck beard?
Holy fuck, what the... That dude looks like he about to fuck everything.
Oh, so either there's a fetish site that's dedicated to this, or he did it ironically? I mean, it sounds kind of like
I don't think he did it ironically.
I don't think you can do something like that ironically.
Yeah, I don't know if I could, like... How do you even get your dick hard to fuck a dog?
It all is just disgusting to me. I mean, look, who hasn't put a little bit of peanut butter on their balls and had their pet dog lick it off?
They're not cats because they have those furry tongues.
Oh yeah, dude, it's like sandpaper on your dick. Not that I imagine hypothetically it's like sandpaper on your dick.
My thing is, I'm so stuck on this beard right now. Like, it's literally not a beard. It's not on his chin at all.
No, it's everywhere but his chin.
Yeah, it's like if an Amish person decided they were going to be a pedophile. That's kind of like the look he has.
It's like if John Wayne Gacy dressed up like a dog instead of like a clown.
Like, it's fucking weird. And you just see him, and this guy, I mean, like, it's still horrible, but like, we're lucky it was only a dog. Once you see this picture of this guy, you're like, holy shit.
Dude, he is a furry. Go to heavy.com. Christian Nichols. Number one, this is 5 fast facts you need to know. Number 1, police say Nichols recorded himself dressed in a quote-unquote furry Siberian husky costume, violently sexually assaulting his own dog. So he's got like a Snapchat picture taken, maybe it's Facebook, but it's the furry head costume, and it says, "My suit is more photogenic than me even when it's in a box."
Well, no shit. Have you seen yourself, dude?
You're shaving your beard backwards. Let's see. Pinellas County Sheriff's investigators say the video, Nichols is dressed in a black and white husky furry dog costume and using his penis and multiple penis-shaped sex toys, and had inappropriate sexual contact with a Siberian husky dog. It's fucked up, man.
He was using toys too?
It's so fucked up. Yeah.
So this dude was like, it's not enough that I'm dressed like a dog, fucking another dog. This isn't kinky enough. You know what I need? Some toys.
Oh my god, dude.
This blows my fucking mind, man. You threw me a curveball that I was not emotionally prepared for this today.
Jesus, dude, there's a picture of like a dozen dildos varying in size, shape, and color all the way down there. The video, which was posted by Mr. Nichols and eventually leaked online, was exceptionally disturbing, as anyone in full possession of their faculties would be disturbed. The video starts with Ember's ears down, which canine behavior studies indicates a signal the dog's submissive or afraid, you think? He then starts abusing the dog with his hand. Afterward, the dog tries to flee from the abuse by running, but she's not able to escape the perpetual hell she's had to face for years. Mr. Nichols brings Ember back to the bed, then proceeds to rape the animal with a sex toy he purchased from Bad Dragon. This is just bad press, guys. Bad press. An online retailer of various dildos and masturbation sex toys influenced from animals.
This sounds like the most Florida story. I don't know if we will be able to find a more Florida story this year. Like at the end of the year, we need to do our top 10 Florida stories, and this probably will be number 1.
This is weird news, but the golf cart story is fun. The fucking what was the other one we just talked about? The $980,000 stolen. That's fun. This is fucked up, and it says number 3 is
disturbing.
It really is, man. Apparently Nichols has a bizarre online persona that has for years featured him as a wolf and creator of sex toys in the shape of animal penis, but evolved into something even more disturbing until he was reported. So remember when I said it's either a sex thing or it's ironic? Bro, this is bad press for furries, right?
I don't know, man. This is all just too much for me. It's like I was starting to say before my phone cut out was that I'm all for, like, do whatever you want in your bedroom. Like, more power to you, but don't, like, hurt a fucking animal.
No, like, and I mean, like, pets are, like, part of the family for a lot of people. I think it's horrible to, like, systematically or repeatedly do that shit to a dog. Like, obviously there's no ability to be able to do or say anything about it. Nichols criticized the furry fandom for not being more supportive of him, given his fetish-driven artwork that consists of wolf images, mostly with disturbing themes. I'm looking at one now. It's a wolf dressed like a SS soldier, only instead of having a swastika around his insignia, it's got a little paw on it, but it's clearly signaled on this. So this guy's a fucking weirdo, and I don't know how to pivot this away from being just disturbing. But there's one tweet that's from a guy named Guild Wars Monk, and it says furries : it's not even a sex thing, and then it posts a link to this article.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no way to end this on a good note, I don't think, you know?
Guys, what kind of crime would be befitting of a person that does this kind of stuff, and let us know down in the comment section.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just gonna transition away from that one into something a little less weird here. Damn it, that was the last story. Damn it, man. I guess we'll go ahead and switch into the topics of the week. Caleb, you brought this to my attention just this morning, but I guess it happened a couple days ago.
So this is something I've been following since the jump. So the actor JUSSIE Smollett, or Smollett, I don't know how to say his last name. He's actually a character from the show Empire. I only know of him because my wife absolutely loves that show, but he is a gay man, a black man. I only say that because it's relevant to the story, but he's a gay black man. And a couple of weeks ago, he came out and said he was walking down the street in Chicago, and two men walked up to him in Make America Great Again hats. They threw a noose around his neck, started beating him up, called him like the N-word, and then poured bleach on him. He went home and called the cops. My initial reaction, you can even find a tweet of mine, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry this happened to this. You know, there's no excuse that this should happen to someone. And then, like almost immediately, I was like, first of all, I found it weird that apparently they beat him and said, this is MAGA country in Chicago, in downtown Chicago. I was like, doesn't seem like the most MAGA country type of place, but there's people everywhere. So I had my doubts, but I never want to say like someone is faking something.
This dude's lying. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's just not cool to do. I'm not that person either. So fast forward, the cops were like, hey, there's cameras all over Chicago. We cannot find this attack happening. And that was kind of like, okay, well, that adds a little bit more. And then it was like he was walking back from a subway at 2 a.m, which I was like, okay, people go out to bars. But this was during that cold freeze where it was like -30, like where it was frigid cold in Chicago. So I was like, well, that's even a little weirder. But I'm like, hey, weird shit happens. And then the more and more, I honestly, like, even on Twitter, I was like, hey, let's not jump to conclusions. But, like, in my house, when me and my wife were talking, I was like, my fucking spider sense is tingling that, like, I just don't buy this. You hear a lot of people anymore. It started probably my first experience noticing it was the lady who, like, spray painted her own garage. Like, this was maybe like 7 years ago, spray painted her own garage, like derogatory things about lesbians. And then like video came out and they're like, no, she spray painted it. No one did a hate crime. There's been these weird fluctuation of faking hate crimes because I feel like it's kind of almost seen as victim status is great. Being a victim sucks. No one should ever want to be a victim. And so I feel like that you're starting to see, but I was like, still not ready to say this was faked. Then the cops found 2 persons of interest, which they're like, hey, they found them via, there was just one picture of them, but then they actually found them because of, like, Uber has location. So they found these 2 men. They went and arrested them, and this is where the story gets really weird. The 2 men are definitely not white. They are 2 black brothers from Nigeria.
The biggest, most gigantic motherfuckers I've ever seen in my life.
Like, they are intimidating men. They are big men. They're bodybuilders.
Yeah. Fucking jacked in that way. Just like super muscular.
Yeah. And then I also saw the picture of the JUSSIE Smollett, and I was like, man, for like someone who got beat up really badly, like that's a little cut and a little cut here. Like that dude must have fucking fought off these 2 bodybuilders pretty good. Then it comes out that they were extras on the show Empire. So at this point, I still wasn't ready to be like, okay, he faked it. I was like, okay, this was something personal that for whatever reason, he, instead of saying it's personal, he decided to go on this like anti-Trump rant. And then he went and did an interview, which we'll get to later, where he talks about it. And he says it was because I quote, and this made me laugh, I go hard on 45, which sounds like the worst mixtape name ever. But he was like, that's why I think it happened.
Can I ask a question? What the fuck does that mean?
So he like President 45. I go hard on Trump. Like I say a lot of stuff.
I Trump. See. Okay.
Yeah. And he's like, that's why it happened. And it's like, dude, you had like one negative tweet about Trump and it was after the attack. Like chill. And let's be real. You're the star of Empire, not even like the biggest star of Empire. Like, I don't think you're really even on Trump's radar, Let's
sure.
not make it that. I don't think and let's be real. I don't think the Trumpster Empire crossover is very big.
Not a lot of crossover there. No.
Yeah.
No.
Like I would assume. And then it comes out that not only, so according to sources, again, this is still not confirmed, so it still could be, according to the Nigerian people, he paid them $3,500 to stage this attack. I am just baffled at, if this is true, why the hell anyone would fake this.
What a fucking asshole, dude. It's the most scumbag fucking thing you could possibly do. like gay black dudes don't have enough fucking problems. Like gay anybody doesn't have enough, not problems that they've caused, like problems with parts of society, problems with people who may or may not support Trump. Being gay still carries a stigma. And I don't mean to overgeneralize, but I think statistically, it affects black men more than it affects lots of people, because large parts of the black community haven't really embraced it as wholeheartedly as other people. Is that fair to say?
I would say so. Yeah, I feel like there's still more stigma, and you're seeing it change as I believe it should. But I agree with you. Like gay people already have enough, and specifically black males in our culture do have enough shit, you know? Like,
yeah.
Our society does see black males in a certain light. So I just feel like, so first of all, I actually, it does happen, but this to me is another example of, it's not as prevalent as a lot of people like to make out these white nationalists. Like there's like 11,000 white nationalists in America, which is still way too many, but like, it's not an epidemic, you know? That's like, according to Southern Poverty Law Center, there's like 10, 11,000 white supremacists.
They're all in Florida. No, not really. But
you know what I mean? Like, and I doubt they're in Chicago. I'm just saying.
Right. And that's what makes it kind of reek of, like, that's what I was like, what? In Chicago? It's a predominantly black city. Seems like it would be a weird place for a fucking white nationalist to like set up shop and live at.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's racist people in Chicago.
Sure.
Absolutely. But the whole story was weird to me. And I was watching actually way before this on Joe Budden's podcast, former rapper Joe Budden podcast, and he called bullshit like the first day the story came out. He's like, that's bullshit.
For real?
He's like, this guy was walking around at 2 a.m, and a random stranger walked up with a noose and poured bleach on him in Chicago at 2 a.m. He goes, I don't know what he was up to, but that's not the story behind it.
Huh.
You know, and that was kind of my initial vibe. I'm like, there's something here. Like, I don't know what it would be. I wouldn't know if it was, but it was personal. But to me, like you said, you have to be a special type of scumbag, because I feel like the word racism now has been thrown around so much, it's kind of lost its meaning to even me, where I've seen racism. I know you have too, straight up racism. To now when someone says something's racist, like in the news, I'm like, is it really? You know? Like, and now this is another example of like, hate crimes do exist. Gay people do get attacked. Black people do get attacked. And this fucking asshole is now lessening the facts, lessening the impact when you hear one of these stories, and calling into doubt people that are probably telling the truth. But now your brain can't go there because you're like, oh yeah, this one's been staged and that one's been staged. And every time I feel like lately, if there is a MAGA hat involved, or even someone says the word MAGA hat, you saw it with the Covington kids, you saw it with this, the media is all willing to jump on it and push this story with zero research. If I can hold off making judgment until we get more details, they should be able to.
I heard the story when it happened, and I didn't think twice of it. I just took it at face value, which is, you know, I saw that he had made these allegations. I don't understand why a person would lie about something like that, so I just took him at his word for it. And that's the thing, is this propagates the idea of fake news. This propagates the idea of there are forces at work that are trying to paint a certain picture, or to change the narrative, and to say that Trump supporters are doing this kind of thing. It adds fuel to that fire of people being able to say, it's fake news. The media reports on it, and they don't even know the facts, as like you just now said. And this is 100% a case of fake news.
And thing is, we're in February. We've had two high profile, legitimately fake news. We've had the Covington kids, which was proven to be false, and now this that people just ran with. And I'm like, if you guys hate Trump, that's fine, but you are not hurting Trump with this. You are helping this man exponentially by doing these stories, because it does paint Trump and Trump supporters as the victims here of the quote unquote liberal media elite, and that's the narrative he's pushing, and you guys are really fucking helping him.
So why pay two dudes to do a bunch of shit that you could do by yourself?
He literally could have punched himself and got those two little cuts and put a noose around his neck.
No shit. And you wouldn't have to pay anybody, and you wouldn't have to worry about people not corroborating your story, or have to worry about it coming out that the two white nationalists that attacked you are actually like Nigerian bodybuilders that worked with him on Empire. I heard that Empire was planning on writing him off the show prior to this, but then Fox dramatically pushed back and said, no, we had no intentions on getting rid of him. So the motive is very unclear, but I've to circle back around to how you started this thing out. It's like it was a bid to gain notoriety off being a victim.
I think this is, and I could be wrong because I don't know the man, I don't know his motivations. I think this is classic Trump derangement syndrome, where you're seeing this weird group of people, and this is not emblematic of the left right now, but this is a subsect of people on the left who are so angry at Trump that they want to prove he's a racist so bad. They want to prove that all his Trump supporters are homophobic and racist so bad that they will literally stop at nothing, including fake stories, in order to push a narrative, even if they have to make them up. And their whole justification is, well, it doesn't matter if we made it up. That's really what he is. We're just exposing that. No, you're not exposing anything, because it didn't happen. And I think that's what it is. I'm seeing a lot of people, just like a lot of people on the right lost their fucking mind under Obama, a lot of people on the left have lost their mind under Trump. And I think that's the only justification I can think is he's so anti-Trump that he's like, we need to expose that he's, like this racist and his supporters are this way. And yeah, nothing's ever happened to me, but this is happening to people and I'm going to expose it. Like, that's the only justification I can possibly think of. Or notoriety. That's the only thing I can think of.
So I don't necessarily think that those two motives clash with each other. Yeah. It could be a combination of both, but in my mind, so the oversimplification of that is either it was politically motivated or it was selfishly or personally motivated. Do you think that it can be a combination of personal motivation and political motivation, or do you think one trumps the other? No pun intended.
That would have been a great pun if it were intended. Yeah. I think these two can go hand in hand. My gut, and I have nothing to base this on, this is wild speculation, is it's more politically motivated, and this would be, it would help him grow his stardom in a weird way. I've seen this weird rise of people who legitimately want to be victims even when they're not. And I've known victims of real things. I've known victims of rape. I've known victims of legitimate racist hate crimes. I've known people who are victims. It's not something you want to be. It's horrible. It's dehumanizing. It's awful. So to use that, whether it's for political purposes or for fame, to me, that's next level scumbag.
Is this illegal?
I heard that the police want to question him again. I would assume it has to be illegal of some sort, like a fraud or something like that, but I don't know if it actually is.
With where tension is at right now, partisanly, racially, when it comes to gender politics and all of that, it just seems very, very destructive to everything. Like if it was politically motivated, what he accomplished was exactly the opposite of what his agenda was.
I feel like that's what, like I said, I feel like that combined with media have actually been trying to do one agenda, and I feel like they're actually doing the exact opposite. I feel every time they push they're trying to push the narrative of, oh, this person has a MAGA hat, let's fucking hate them before we find out what's going on. And then it seems like overwhelmingly turns out, hey, that was kind of a non-story, or it was a fabricated story. It's the exact opposite of what the goal is. You know, I feel like now this calls into question, obviously, and I don't think this should, but this calls into question people who are against Trump more than it does people who are for Trump. Now, I think there are legitimate reasons to be against Trump. I 100% do. But this does not help that cause. It actually helps the cause that you're going against.
Yeah, what an asshole. That story bothers the shit out of me. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and transition into another story that I did see you mention it this morning, and I know you're not a huge Marvel fan, so I really want to get your take on this, because Brie Larson in particular in the movie Captain Marvel has come under a lot of scrutiny recently. Basically, the story that I had in front of me says that the original projections for Captain Marvel were somewhere around like $150 million opening weekend, and recently have dropped down to about $100 million, which is still a really strong opening weekend, but that basically there was a 25% drop in what they anticipated audiences were going to do. And again, the article that I read proposed that maybe it had something to do with Brie Larson's press tour. Now, if you guys pay attention to the internet and fan sites and fans of these things, if you're on Twitter, then you've probably seen there's been a lot of discourse about Captain Marvel, starting with the fact that she didn't smile on her posters, and is this going to be some sort of SJW crusade and feminism and sucks for white dudes and all that kind of stuff. What do you... I don't even know where to start this thing off. I guess, what were your anticipations or feelings about Captain Marvel in the first place, especially with its relationship to being so close to the Infinity War movie and Endgame?
So my thing is, like, I was honestly kind of taken back by the backlash, simply because I saw this trailer and I was like, it looks like a fucking Marvel movie. Like, it looks campy. It looks like some shitty humor. Like, it looks like a Marvel movie. Like, I literally, for me as an outsider looking in and not part of this fandom, I looked at it and I was like, this looks like every other one of these fucking movies. What are you complaining about? And the whole not smiling on thing, no superhero smiles on a poster. Like, I didn't understand that. That was one of those things. But now, some of the things that that it sounds like I haven't even read, but it sounds like she's made some quote unquote SJW comments, you know, like she didn't want her press tour to be overwhelmingly white, you know, and I think that could legitimately be something to do with it. Or do you think it's just the movie itself doesn't look good? As a Marvel fan, what do you think?
Well, yeah, and I'm a big Marvel fan. I've liked the majority of the movies. That said, I wasn't really excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I'm not really all that excited about Captain Marvel. And believe me, it doesn't have anything to do with what kind of equipment that she's fucking packing between her legs. It's literally because she's stuck in between fucking Endgame and Infinity War. How anticlimactic is it to go to an origin story right in the middle of what's essentially the end of this entire this iteration of the series? I know that Brie Larson signed a 7-picture deal, which is fucking insane this early on. Who does that? And it's interesting because of all of the casting that I've seen, she has been the most divisive of them. And this is even prior to a lot of her saying stuff. I mean, like, when you see Brie Larson, is there something about her that you don't like?
I'm not really even very familiar with her movies. I mean, I've seen her in like one or two and she was fine. Like, she's one of those people that I have no opinion of, really, to be honest. But my one thing that really blew me, so I do see the whole thing, like, if you're not supportive of this movie, and this started early on, it's because you're sexist. I think that has a negative backlash. I know people just like the whole, if you don't like Black Panther, it's because you're a fucking racist.
Yeah.
You know, like, I even remember some YouTuber put it, and, you know, I kind of called him out. I was like, oh God, I gotta go tell my wife I'm racist now. You know, like, it's gonna make my relationship awkward. I know people who like Marvel movies who fucking hate Black Panther. Not because they're racist. They don't give a shit about race. They're just sick of anytime they criticize it being called a racist. And so it could be that kind of reverse thing. Again, like going against the cause you're going for, where people going, oh, you're not super excited for Captain Marvel, it's because you're a sexist. And then they're like, well, fuck this movie. You know? It could be a reaction to that.
And like when Wonder Woman got cast, there were a fuckload of people that said she's too skinny, her titties aren't big enough, she's fucking Israeli, like whatever the complaints were. But by the time the movie came out, a lot of that was already quelled and people really responded positively to Wonder Woman. Whether we're talking about critics, audiences, most people liked Wonder Woman, and she's a woman. So what is it I cannot for the life of me figure out what the difference is, other than Brie Larson has been a little bit abrasive with her the way that she's speaking on it. Now, is it okay for a woman to be abrasive? Certainly. She shouldn't have to fucking bite her tongue or anything like that. But when you... Okay, so this is the most recent thing that I saw right before we started recording. And basically, it was that Brie Larson, the first interview that she did, I think it was with Esquire, and it was with a girl with cerebral palsy who is also a black girl. So she was talking to her about a couple years ago when she started doing press for this. She realized that critics were overwhelmingly white 40-something-year-old men. You know who else is predominantly white 40-something-year-old men? Movie critics, comic book readers. You know what I mean? A lot of the people who are super invested in this. So automatically, she took shots at some of the most influential voices in this whole space. I mean, when you call out 40-something-year-old white males, you're isolating a huge, like some of the biggest influencers in this space. So do you think that is a big factor in what happened?
I could agree with that. Like, the vast majority of comic book readers are overwhelmingly white men. Like, it's one of those things that I don't know if that's sexist that, white dudes love comics. I don't know if that's a sexist or racist thing. I'm going to use something that's super like stereotypical, but I'm going to use an example. But like the Real Housewives show, I'm pretty sure is predominantly women that watch that. Is that because the Real Housewives show is sexist against men? No, it's just different content for different types of people.
Yeah.
That being said, I know tons of nerdy women. One of my best friends is a nerdy mixed girl who fucking loves comic books and shit like that, And so I feel like it reminds me almost of Gamergate. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Gamergate.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Essentially, they were like, well, if you don't like this, it's because your fan base is all sexist and this. And shockingly, people don't like to be lectured by the new Puritans, like they don't like it. And I feel like Hollywood has this real disconnect right now, Hollywood and tech. So like if you just live on Twitter, you think that everyone's like super progressive and very identitarian intersectionality. Like they really believe that's that way. But then you get out into the real world and you realize the vast majority of people are not that. Even people who are on the left are not this caught up in like white male, white privilege, this, and this, that's a bubble. And I feel like people now, we're in this weird stage where I've even felt it, where I feel like I'm being lectured by these people who feel like they're superior than us. Like, oh, you dumb Americans, you need to be more like us Hollywood types. And I think there's something super, it's the same thing. And I use this analogy all the time because I think it's right. It's like when you meet someone who's super religious and they're like, oh, well, I'll pray for you.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, fuck you.
Yeah. It's condescending as fuck.
Yeah, I feel it's the same way.
Yeah, I agree. It's an interesting situation because on one hand, forced diversity, she says in an interview, and it's a good point, is that it's a decision that people have to make because it's not happening naturally as much right now. So yes, there is a little bit of forced inclusion in hopes that eventually down the road there will be more representation for people. And I can commend her for that, but when you have to call out one group to build up another, it does become problematic, and especially when you're relying on these same voices to prop you up. And that's what I find to be the strangest about this is if Brie Larson had her way and she brought only underrepresented people, only minorities, only women into these screenings or these press junkets, isn't she somehow skewing the results? If she's held to a different standard, because, okay, like for example, I love surfing or whatever. Let's just use surfing for example. I love surfing. And I'm a professional surfer, and there's this movie coming out about surfboarding, and the director decides to go round up surfers. That's going to be a dramatically different perspective on the movie, and it's going to very much change the perception of the movie among that community before it's even released. So is she rigging the game by demanding that only people that will like the movie end up being able to have a voice on it?
Yeah, I would actually say that she is. And I would actually like to see figures of like population breakdown versus movies. Like black people, I think, make up something like 18%.
It's a really good point.
What would you say there's 13 or 18% of black people in movies? I'd say probably,
Yeah.
I would say our movies are probably I would say Hispanic is probably super underrepresented because
there's a huge population of Hispanic people.
Yeah,
yes.
But you don't see them as much in movies. There was an old stand-up thing where, I forget who it was, but he was saying, he goes, every commercial, black guy, white guy. We're ordering pizza, black guy, white guy. He's like, and he goes, where are the Mexicans at? Like I forgot who it was, and so I would like to see population breakdowns because I would say, are black people maybe underrepresented? Yes. Do I think they're underrepresented probably in leading roles? Yes. But to act like it's going to be 50-50 representation in a country that is not 50-50, I think is a little weird. That's just the way my brain works.
That's a really good point, and it's something that I've actually contemplated before. So it's like in China, is there people that are saying like, well, there's way too many Chinese or Asian people in these movies? Now, again, America's a melting pot. I'm not saying you're less American because of the color of your skin. If you live here in America, you are an American. The founding fathers were from Europe. They were English. Some of them were Spanish. But the reason why I even bring that into the equation is because the population has been affected by that. And it would seem crazy. And when you say 50-50, of what? 50% Chinese, 50% male, 50% female, 50% people with disabilities, 50%. At some point, it's like you can't represent everybody in any one movie because there's so many kinds of fucking people.
I agree. And there's characters, I'm sure you and me, there's women in movies that I relate to. There's black people in movies that I relate to. There's straight white males in movies that I do not relate to because I feel like we're getting too much caught up on the outside, the shell of us, and to me, that's not really what makes a person who they are. It's just physiology, and now that being said, I do understand that diversity matters. Like as someone who, my kids are going to be half black. I think it's kind of cool that they're going to be able to watch Miles Morales and look at Spider-Man and go, like, that one kind of looks like me.
Of course, dude. Of course. I couldn't agree more.
Or that they're able, if I have a daughter, that I can take her to Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel and she can watch a female superhero. I think that's kind of badass, So I understand, like everything, there's this huge gray area that people get, that they just ignore exist. And I feel like representation does matter. However, I don't feel sometimes the lack of representation. So correlation and causation are two different things. Sometimes the lack of representation may have no correlation and definitely no causation to actual racism or sexism.
Correct.
We'll use anything. We'll use basketball, but basketball is predominantly black males. Is that because it's racist against white males? Well, no, that's not the correlation there. But there are times where it is. And I do think probably as a female critic, you probably do have more hoops to jump through. Probably as a minority critic, you probably do. So I do understand that actually. As much as sometimes I come off as quote unquote anti-SJW, I actually do think representation matters. So I don't know. I'm all over on this one. It's one of those ones where I don't know why the backlash exists other than maybe it's the lecturing part.
And maybe Brie Larson got defensive because of early statements and comments that were made. Maybe she would have never felt compelled to make this kind of statement or take this kind of stance had it have not been that people forced their hand to, because I've been watching movies for a long fucking time. Nobody had a problem with Princess Leia, but they definitely had a problem with Rose from The Last Jedi. Is it because she was Asian? Is it because they felt like having to hit the status quo is like... that's what I just can't wrap my head around, why this current climate of including people is enraging fans so much. It's just fucking weird to me.
Yeah, I agree with. So I feel like sometimes people do have a problem with forced diversity. So I think there's a lot of people who honestly aren't racist. They're not sexist. They would watch a movie with anything. They just don't want to feel like it was put in there that the person got that job simply before, like, quote unquote, affirmative action. You know, I don't feel like they want to see that, and it's a hard thing because, like, while watching Star Wars, I didn't like Rose because I thought she was kind of just a lame character. I was kind of shocked at the reaction, you know, to that that she had, but like I never, while watching it, I wasn't like, oh my god, they put an Asian woman in my Star Wars. Like, it was like didn't even cross my mind until I saw the reaction. And then even on the Star Wars, it's weird because, like, one of the leads is a black male in the new Star Wars, and I didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see a huge backlash about any of that.
There wasn't a huge backlash about it. There was like, oh, black stormtrooper, but that was very early on. And then after the movie was released, people didn't have that much to say about it. Even the fact that it was a black stormtrooper, I don't think that in itself, I don't think there was as much like vitriol around it because nobody had ever seen a stormtrooper before. This is the first stormtrooper face we'd ever seen. And I think it worked narratively with what they were trying to do. And yeah, people like John Boyega. So it's like sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. And I'm just trying to figure out what that fucking X factor is. Why people respond so much differently to Captain Marvel than they do Wonder Woman. I wonder if it's because Wonder Woman wears a skirt and Captain Marvel's wearing a fucking... I mean, I legitimately wonder that, you know? I mean, can it cite subconsciously? Do you think that shit could possibly play a factor?
I think it could, but I don't think that's it. I think honestly, I think it's this one-upping thing that we've been kind of going on the whole show for politics. I feel like, so people on the troll right or alt-right, you know, they very much hold hand in hand a lot of times, even if the troll right's just doing it to fuck with people. I think started kind of fucking with Brie Larson because of it, you know? Maybe because they were sexist, maybe because they knew it would get a rise out of people, you know? And started fucking with her. Then she got defensive, which started, she started saying, hey, you know, you don't like this, it's because you're sexist. I mean, she didn't say that, but you know what I mean? Like, that narrative started, which then there were all these people who were like, well, I'm not that excited about it, but it's not because I'm sexist, so fuck you, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like it just kind of spiraled maybe, because whereas there were the sexist people who had a problem with Wonder Woman's boobs not being big enough or whatever. They existed. But like, to my knowledge, I don't think Gal Gadot came out and was like, fuck them, you're sexist. I think she kind of just was like, I'm making my movie. Yeah. And they went away. Because they're almost like, trolls are kind of like bullies, you know? Like, if they see a rise out of you, they're going to attack.
This is the first time I've ever seen Marvel be so political on a junket tour. This is the first time I've ever seen them take such a hard stance as far as social issues that really don't have anything to do with the movie. And I mean, it's potential that it's strategizing, because if you can galvanize everybody that's not a 40-year-old white male, then all of a sudden your audience is way fucking bigger. We saw it with Black Panther. But it's like, bitch, you're a 30-something-year-old white female. Why are you trying to fucking put all these people on blast? She said something that I understand very much the reasoning behind it, and I agree with her on one hand. She says, why do I care what a bunch of 40-year-old white men think about A Wrinkle in Time? I want to hear from the young girls. I want to hear from African-American girls of a certain age. And it's what I feel like you're doing is when you're choosing your sample size like that, and who does care what a 40-year-old fucking movie critic thinks about A Wrinkle in Time?
Who cares what anyone cares?
Yes, 100%. But you're skewing your results. If every other movie through history was held to this one standard, and now all of a sudden you're going to change that standard for your movie, then you're affecting the experiment. You're controlling the outcome of the experiment.
Well, and that's my thing is, yes, I get that so Wrinkle in Time, if you want to watch it, I don't care if I actually do care what you think or what I think. I also care what my wife thinks. I also care what a little girl thinks. Like, you know, everyone's allowed to have an opinion. Imagine if she came out though and said, or someone else, imagine if Henry Cavill came out and was like, I don't really care what a black woman has to think about Superman.
Right.
I just want to know what white males think about it, because
Yeah.
I'm a white male and the character's white male. It's kind of arrogant and douchey.
It's real douchey.
And I understand that. As a white guy, I'm sure you've had this reaction where someone does the whole like, oh, anti-white male speech, and the first thing is you're like, ugh, gross.
Yeah.
What are you?
Yeah.
And I've done that before. And I feel like that could be emblematic of what's going on here, is the fact that, maybe people are just reacting back to it.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm really curious how it is going to play out. I'm surprised because I've never seen Marvel fans, or lack of Marvel fans, be so arduently against a specific character. I don't remember anybody having this kind of things about Black Widow, but then I did see a tweet that was like, ScarJo never opened her mouth. Is that what it means? Is that women shouldn't open their fucking mouths? Or is it, it can be women have every right to voice their opinions while still being tactful about it. I mean, it's possible that she did cross some lines by saying that. I felt weird about the fact that she called out 40-year-old white dudes. Now, granted, that is kind of the patriarchy. It's accepted that is the truth. It's been the patriarchy for hundreds of years. So she's not saying anything that people haven't thought before.
Yeah, and I kind of also hate that mentality of like, so first of all, should a woman be allowed to say whatever? Absolutely.
Fuck yeah.
But just because they're a woman does not mean they get special treatment to where they're not allowed to have a reaction to it.
Correct.
So if I get out here and I say something super asshole and I get a reaction for it, I mean, I don't know what she said. Nothing she said offended me that bad. I'm not saying that.
No,
I
me
really
neither.
could give a shit less. But let's say I come out here and I say something. You're allowed to be angry with what I said. You're allowed to, if another actor says something that goes against something, you're allowed to. Just because she's a woman, do she need special treatment? Well, no, because then we're kind of doing the exact opposite of what a female superhero is. We're kind of treating her with kid gloves, and instead of giving her honest feedback, which is kind of implying that women are weak and cannot handle themselves, which is something I do not believe. I mean, between me and my wife is the much stronger person in our marriage, hands down. And I just, it's a weird situation. Ultimately, I think it's going on to make a ton of money. It'll be fine. You're going to have those people who refuse to watch it because it's a woman. That's a small percentage of people.
Yeah.
Just like you have the people who refuse to watch Black Panther because it's a black superhero. It's a small percentage of people. So I think sometimes making something political when, ironically, you can make a bigger political statement without pushing it down people's throats, Yeah. And it can be a bigger statement.
Yeah, I agree. I think being tactful all the way back to the politicians, if you can be diplomatic about things, then you're always going to get more bees with honey than you do with vinegar, old school. But
people don't understand that.
No. And on that note, guys, I would love to hear your opinion, unless you are anywhere near being a 40-year-old white male. Leave it down in the comments section. Seriously, I would love to hear your take on it. Anything else before we go, Caleb?
No, but if we get another man in here, we can have a lemon party.
Yeah, boy. All right. Well, and if you guys enjoyed this video, do us a favor, take a second to smash that little thumbs up button and come by and say what's up on Wednesday over at Movies Are Terrible. We got some fun stuff planned. I'm not going to bleed out, hopefully, between now and then. We're going to talk a little bit about what movies we've watched. Hopefully, Caleb, you'll have seen Alita by then.
I'm texting plans right now to go ahead and get.
Good. All right, guys. Well, until next time, and on behalf of both of us, be terrible.